Well, from Cape Town now, we're joined by one of the best-known thinkers in the world, the man known as the father of lateral thinking. Dr Edward de Bono featured at the inaugural Progress Conference hosted by the Business Results Group in Cape Town yesterday. De Bono has long argued that logical thinking based on pure argument has limitations. He told delegates that creative thinking is going to become more important in business than ever. A very warm welcome to you, Doctor. Let's look at your message to business people in South Africa. In a commoditized world, it's harder for businesses to stand out, to offer something unique, and you say that they have to start thinking differently.
Yes, indeed. It's good to be here.
Tell us a bit about your message.
Well, essentially what I'm saying is that the way the brain works, the brain forms patterns, and we should be very grateful for that. Otherwise, for example, if you're getting dressed in the morning with 11 items of clothing, there are 39,916,800 ways of getting dressed, and if you tried one way every minute of your life, you need to live to be 76 years old, doing nothing else at all. Fortunately, the brain forms patterns. We have a pattern of getting dressed, we just switch into it and use it. Now, these patterns are asymmetric, which means you go from A to B or C to A, not A to C. That gives rise to humor, which is the most significant behavior of the human brain, and also to creativity. So we can develop techniques for cutting across patterns, which is called lateral thinking.
What do you do if you're stuck in set ways of thinking, in set paradigms? How do you start thinking differently?
Well, the techniques you can learn, there are training courses. There are people in South Africa who are training my work very successfully. They're books of mine to read. And then you use these tools, you develop skill in them, some confidence, and start applying them. One time there was a workshop here in South Africa, in Cape Town, I think, and using just one of the tools, they generated 21,000 new ideas in one afternoon.
Doctor, we've set a little task for you tonight. I hope you'll play along and show us how your thinking hats work. I'd like you to look at a huge problem that we have, unemployment in South Africa. It's massive, around 25%, one of our biggest challenges. How do you go about thinking about a problem like that?
Well, I'll use one of the lateral thinking technique, the random word, where we put in a random word, and as we connect it up, it opens up different approaches. Now, I've got a list of 216 random words. You've got to give me 3 numbers from 1 to 6. 3 numbers, each one from 1 to 6. That'll locate the word, and then I'll show how you can use that word. So let's have 3 numbers from 1 to 6.
2, 4, and 5.
2, 4, and 5. 2, 4, and 5. And the word on my list for 2, 4, and 5 is mermaid. Mermaid.
Now, mermaid. What on earth
mermaid.
do you do with that?
Well, mermaid is a fictional creature which sailors used to imagine, and it used to give them some pleasure, some benefit in imagining, and it was a very personal thing in imagining. So from that, what would come to my mind regarding unemployment is that if we made personal employment very tax effective, in other words, if you employed people, you can deduct it from tax, then there's no limit to the personal employment you can have. You can have a maid, you can have 2 maids, you can have a cook, you can have a driver, you can have 2 drivers, you can have nannies. And by encouraging personal employment, domestic employment, then that reduces unemployment. So that's what comes from that word, the idea of something personal employment, and as a way to reduce unemployment.
That is very interesting. Can I throw a span in the works and say that people here are concerned that our minimum wages are perhaps discouraging people from expanding personal employment, from taking on more domestic workers, because it's hard to hire and fire in this country. What do you do with an argument, therefore?
Well, I would take again with mermaid. Mermaids live in seas. Seas have waves, go up and down. We could have a new contract of employment, a new type of employment, where your wage is not fixed. Your wage is fixed at a certain level depending on some economic indicator, and if that economic indicator, whatever it is, goes down, then your wage goes down, and the other wage goes up if necessary. So there isn't a fixed wage. There's a fixed commitment to employ someone, but the wages vary according to the economic climate.
Right.
So that way you don't need to sack someone, you just reduce wages.
Very interesting. If you are the owner of a business right now in Finality, Doctor, how would you encourage someone like that to foster creative thinking in their business?
Well, it's first of all, we need to realize creative thinking, that thing is a skill which anyone can learn. It's true some people might be better than others, just as anyone can learn tennis, but some people are better at tennis than others, or skiing, or whatever. So it's a skill which everyone can learn, and indeed should learn. There was a company in Argentina, and the owner of that read some of my books and started teaching my work to his staff. It's a textile company. At that time, he was half the size of his competitor. 4 years later, he's 4 times the size of his competitor, just through getting ideas, suggestions from all his staff about simpler ways of doing things, cheaper ways, better ways, and so on. So it's something which can be introduced right across an organization at all levels, and people start being creative and make differences, make changes.
All right, thank you so much. And Doctor, don't be surprised if you get a call from one of our politicians who wants to discuss mermaids, the man known as the father of lateral thinking, Dr. Edward de Bono.